So step two, once you've answered step one, is to pick a programming language. And so since Selenium has official support for numerous programming languages, you would need to pick one. And so the first question people typically ask is, should we use the same programming language as the app that we're testing? And this is actually typically not the best question to start with. A lot of times the assumption is that, well, we have developers who use this language, so if we get stuck, if we're testers who are trying to do this automation, we could just go and ask the developers. But it's not like developers are busy writing features or anything. So that's usually where things go awry, is you actually don't get the care from developers that you might want unless you actually happen to be working at an enlightened organization that has developers who are writing test automation. And then, sure, that makes a lot of sense. But really, the better question to ask is who's going to own the test automation. And then from there, you can understand what's their interest, what's their preference, what's their experience. And a lot of times what I'm seeing at organizations are a lot of companies have built out mature implementations of Selenium with Java. And so you have all these Java developers who invested time into this. And then you have a whole slew of front-end web developers who are now interested in test automation, but they want to do it in JavaScript. And they're looking to effectively rewrite the test framework from scratch using Selenium. And it's just an interesting thing, because if there was this conversation initially, then perhaps they would have just started with JavaScript, and then everybody would have just followed suit potentially. So it's worth having that conversation. And of course, there is this other question of, should we build a framework or use an existing one? And the answer is typically, we'll just build our own. Everyone thinks that their situation is unique. And there are some things contextually that matter, like in terms of which kind of database you're using or what the actual structure of your REST calls are. But there are actually numerous open source frameworks out there, and I'm keeping a list which is continuing to grow. There's actually, I'm overdue to add some to this as well, but there is a growing number of frameworks out there across all languages for Selenium. But the tenets that go into building a good framework, I'll cover in this talk as well. So if you decide to go and build your own, which 9 out of 10 times people will, then you'll at least kind of have something to have a litmus test to compare what you've built or thinking about building to what would be a reasonable design for it.